Look, he bombed the Hilton Hotel in Cartagena just to kill one person from the Cali cartel. He bombed the whole Hilton.
The whole Hilton.
So that's when the U.S. started to get more involved because they said, yo, this.
We're live in Medellin right now. We're going to do the famous Pablo Escobar tour. This is our shuttle service.
Yeah. Big bad Benz. Yeah, so I don't know, guys. We go to the Pablo Escobar tour. I'm not sure if we go stop off and just come out of the bus and nobody do because I feel away, you know. But that's our plan for today, guys. We go do the Pablo Escobar tour. So if all goes well, I'm showing you the journey and everything. Guys, more kind of hard for my video. Hard for do some video, so bear with me. I know I'm cold.
That's where we start. We move to the cemetery, visit his grave. Also, Griselda Blanco's grave is there too. Then we're gonna go to the.
So it's actually your grave here?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And then we're gonna go to the house, to the neighborhood that he built for the poor people, La Milagrosa. They have like a monument over there, like just so you guys can know, like the slums. And then we're gonna move over to Camino 13, drive the cable car, and then finish up in the graffiti tour, basically.
Okay. Thank you.
Good.
We already know. Alright, Jeffy, go out for your woman.
Yeah, man, so we had our first stop, guys. Our first destination is it memorial site or memorial place of Pablo Escobar. Is it, so go over there, find out how you can understand about it. I don't know Pablo Escobar, very significant man to Colombia, said we, you know.
So you watching Colombian series? It's just Blanco to watch.
Okay, yeah, Griselda Blancos just came out, yeah. So this is, they call this the path of heroes, where 9 politicians or public figures who were against Pablo and they all ended up getting targeted by the cartel, killed, right? So this park is Memorial Park Inflection. The mayor decided to create this park in 2019 to kind of change the tendency on how people view the story about Pablo, because the tendency when the building was here was for people to come in a way like glorifying him, right? Thinking he was a god. So that's why he wanted to explain more about the victim side of the story, so people can learn that, right? So this quote translates: even though we went through years of hardship between bullets and bombs, we found ourselves living and dreaming, maintain hope in the future. So that means that was dedicated to the people who lived in the city around that time, who were had hope that things were going to eventually change and the city was going to go through a transformation and it was going to be safe.
So that's still for that purpose?
Yeah, that was for the local people who lived in this neighborhood. Pablo's building was here. Only like people with money used to live around here. Only big homes like the ones you see in the corner. All the buildings came in after, like in the last 20 years, right?
Okay.
So there was only like big homes. This guy was the governor. He got killed by a car bomb. They actually did it by accident. They were trying to kill the police director. They confused his convoy, activated the bomb, and he ended up dying. Collateral damage, like they say. Right?
Collateral damage.
So guys, in the 80s, it was okay to be a drug dealer here in Medellin. As long as you had money and power, these guys were, you know, getting along with all types of people, important people. No one really cared. It was seen as another business. When Pablo tried to get himself into the Congress, that's when they started to expose him and started to persecute him, right? So it wasn't safe for him. This guy, Pablo used to also manipulate the newspapers so they can only make him look good in front of the country, right? This guy was the one who had the guts to always expose him and tell the truth about Pablo. So he was a constant target to them. Even though he knew that, he still stood up against it. And he was killed right before Christmas. Hitters on a motorcycle killed him and his driver.
So, in other words, he was a snitch.
Well, not a snitch, but he was like exposing Pablo, like talking about all the prosecutors that Pablo killed. And, you know, Pablo used to pretty much get rid of all the witnesses and pay the newspapers so they can make him seem like a
So
good person.
he was never with Pablo to begin with?
No, never ever. You know, back then it was easily to bribe these people, right? So he was like the only one who could do it. So look, when Pablo got himself into the Congress, he was
Luis Carlos
sympathizer from these two guys' political party. Rodrigo Lara Bonilla was actually the first politician that Pablo killed. When Pablo came into the Congress, this guy was a congressman, Rodrigo Lara Bonilla, and he was the one who exposed him in front of everyone. He told the truth about Pablo. He showed that he was a drug dealer, where his money was coming from. So it was an insult for Pablo, basically, when Pablo got kicked out of the Congress.
Yeah, I saw that in the movie.
Yeah, he showed his mugshot and stuff. So basically, he threatened this guy. They didn't think Pablo was going to be capable of killing a politician, right? But then they named this guy the Minister of Justice. And guess what? He started to persecute the cartel people. So he was like a target to them. So he was killed. Also, hitmen on a motorcycle. They came by, shot him. Why? Because they can get away on the motorcycles. And if not, they were like typically underage. They wouldn't even do time in prison.
So he was there like to stop the drug, to put an end to the drug traffic, to do, you know.
Yeah, he was gonna basically go against all those people.
Yeah, go against.
So he was the first politician that Pablo killed in 1984.
This
and
one?
After that year, you can say Pablo went back in his underground world pretty much and started to like, you know, hide. It wasn't safe for him to be around. So after he killed this guy was gonna become the president, right? He was like our John F. Kennedy here. So they were gonna make a difference, and he was killed in front of thousands of people in a political speech in Bogota. Right, it was a setup they had between the cartel and his own bodyguards. They told the guy it was going to be safe. When he got there, it was a mess. They don't even know who shot him. Like most of the people they took to prison that night, it was just to show some type of results, but they didn't really catch the person who did it. Right, the guy who actually pulled the trigger. So you can tell that was basically the worst.
You want a couple of periods in the council city, and then you can go apply to the Congress. Take the pictures,
So the lady that they're standing over there is Maria Elena Diaz. This lady was the first one to ever write a warrant against Pablo. So of course Pablo tried to bribe her, tried to kill her. So Pablo's quote was "plata o plomo," money or lead. You take the money, you take the lead. A lot of people did it because they were scared. So they accepted.
So we have to go start these.
This lady was killed in like 5 minutes away from here. She went to go pick up a newborn baby, and they shot her right in front of her house. Right? They were all under 40 basically, and people who stood up to Pablo, and they knew it was gonna happen, but their moral rights told them it was bigger to stand up against him. Right? So look, this quote says, "My voice may shake, never mind moral." You know, they knew and they were scared that the cartel would eventually get to them. And this quote right here. Undeniable, the hardship and pain reached that. So this resembles like bullet holes, right? Basically the local people or the people who lost a family member to a Pablo war, they come and put flowers here sometimes, you know, in their memories. So we're gonna go around the wall. I'm gonna show you the timeline of all the bombings that took place between those 10 years, okay?
Okay.
Oh, what mission?
So basically, all of them are bullet hole. As many people come on, people love Pablo. So more of them come and put some flowers in there, said if you recommend the memory of Pablo, isn't it?
We can wait here to give the guys some time to Congress, and also because Ronald Reagan was talking about the extradition and the war on drugs, right? So he bombed the U.S. Embassy in Bogota. That was the first bombing that Pablo ever did to those people. And then in 1985, he got together with the guerrilla group M19, and they took over the Justice Palace. They wanted to burn all the evidence they had against the cartel. They did. They got rid of everything. It was a constant shooting for 2 days. A lot of people died, and there's still people missing that used to work in that building. Like an average of 15 people just disappeared. They don't know what happened, if they were kidnapped.
Never
by the
to be
guerrillas.
seen, never to heard from again.
So, question: is he a good person or a bad one?
It's a mixed feelings. Like, you can say Pablo was a good person
Exactly.
before 1984, right? After he kills his first politician. When he was running for his campaign in the 80s, he did a lot of social projects. He helped a lot of people. He gave homes to people. He
Some point he has a good.
built soccer pitches. So everyone here loved Pablo. Why? Because he was making it rain on people. Anybody who had something to do with Pablo, even if you weren't a hitman but just working for him, you were making money. So everybody protected the guy. Everybody looked out for him. That's why he managed to get away for so long. He always had someone to give him the next up. But after he started killing politicians and he started messing with innocent people, that's basically when, you know, the people divided their feelings against him, right? So look, 1988, this is Edificio Monaco, the building that was right here, Barrio Santa Maria, Los Angeles. The Cali cartel placed a car bomb here with 80 kilos of dynamite. It destroyed everything around here, 3 blocks around it. So Pablo thinks they killed his family, right? He wasn't here, but his family was. His daughter lost her hearing, so Pablo started to retaliate against anything who had relationships to the cartel, right? So even if you owned a legit business here and you were related to the people from Cali, he was gonna go ahead and bomb you just because, you know, he wanted to
Revenge.
get those people out of there, right? So in 1988, he started the bombings again against the Cali cartel. So he was bombing just random people with regular businesses just to try to get back at them.
All of these persons, 1988.
So look, the Cali cartel used to launder their money through a chain of pharmacies called La Rebaja. Pablo basically bombed every single one of these businesses here in Medellin, right? So look, again, public roads. So at that point, he was already doing terrorism, killing people working at those pharmacies. There were no people from the cartels there, just innocent people.
Innocent
working
people,
at those pharmacies, right? 1989, it was considered one of the worst years here in Medellin, probably the most dangerous place to be. Pablo placed over 71 bombs in just that 1 year. So look, drogas la rebaja again. 2 days later, la rebaja. So it was a constant bombing, like every day, every other day, if not every single day. So public roads again, clubs to go kill one person, he'll create a crazy bombing or just crazy drive-by, just shoot anybody who was standing, right? Drogas la rebaja.
So
Was partly owned by the cartel. He bombed 8 branches of this same bank in 1 day. So at that point, people couldn't even go to the bank because it was like,
they
he
started
bombed
to
the
fear
banks.
Pablo. So people started to fear Pablo now.
yeah, exactly. So that's what he did, right? That was his way of putting fear into the people by placing all these bombings and in a way to manipulate the government. El periódico El Espectador. So after he kills the journalist over there, he bombed his family. His wife and kids kept the same editorial line. They kept talking about Pablo. So he tried to bomb them a couple times.
He tried or he did?
Yup.
Huh?
What?
He tried. He was successful.
He didn't kill the family though, but he bombs the headquarters, the building, right?
Okay,
Oh.
okay.
Look, he bombed the Hilton Hotel in Cartagena just to kill one person from the Cali cartel. He bombed the whole Hilton.
The whole
Yeah. So that's
internal.
when the U.S. started to get more involved because they said, yo, this guy is running crazy over here.
Getting under control.
Look, Avión de Bianca, he bombed the plane, Bianca airplane. 110 innocent people died. There were 2 Americans on this flight, so that's when the DEA, FBI, and CIA really came in here with the technology and started to help the Colombian government, basically. So, in 1989 again, he bombed the DAS department, which is like the CIA building here, right? He bombed the intelligence police, and he wanted to kill 2 people that were involved in Galan's assassination, and also the colonel that was persecuting Pablo here. He had bombed his family, so he went to hide out in this building, and he tried to kill those 2 targets, but it wasn't successful. He ended up killing 200 innocent people, right? So that's basically the biggest bombings that he did. 1990, Pablo was a straight up like gangster. He used to drive around armed to the teeth. Every time the cops were trying to pull him over, it'll be a crazy shootout, right? They found out his cousin, Gustavo Gaviria, was more low-key type of guy, drove around by himself. Basically, he was the brain of the cartel. The richest man in the cartel was not Pablo Escobar, it was Gustavo.
Pablo's cousin.
Yeah, he was the one who controlled the business for him. Pablo produced the coke, but this guy was the one controlling the routes and everything. So the cops found out about that. They did intelligence on Gustavo. They got to him. They kidnapped him and tortured him for a couple days. And they wanted him to say where Pablo was. You know, these guys had a strong like street code. They would never give each other up. He ended up getting killed by the police. So you can say after 1990, the cartel started going downhill. Why? Because he was the brain. Pablo started to become like paranoid. He thinks everyone's gonna betray me, and then at this point he had already started thinking about building his own prison for his own surrender, but he wanted to do so under his own terms. He wanted to get rid of the extradition law. So his way of bombing people to force the government to do whatever he wanted, right? But then he noticed all these bombings weren't bringing no results, and he wasn't really doing nothing with it, so he started kidnapping people. He ended up kidnapping the ex-president's daughter. This lady gets killed. She was a journalist. She gets killed by the police when they try to rescue her. And that's, you can technically say, when the government said, you know, we have no other choice but to give him a deal, right? So Pablo was able to build his own prison. They changed the Colombian constitution and they revoked the extradition law. So he turned himself in to the Catedral prison in 1991. And he was there for 11 months.
11 months.
He was safe there. Everything was going well for him until he was forced to escape this prison, his own prison, and he was on the run again for like a year and a half. 93, December 2nd, that's when he gets killed. So he was basically by himself. I'll explain to you why this guy had to escape his own prison on the way we're gonna drive to the cemetery. We can no longer go to the prison right now. It's like an hour and a half drive, and it's a foundation there that took over it, so there's really nothing there that belongs to the prison.
Oh.
That's for the cops who got on duty. About 7,000 cops and 400 cops in just 1 year. Why? Because
alright guys, so we'll go to the graveside now, Pablo Escobar. So catching up on the graveside, camera battery on low, so I have to try to preserve it. More cool.
He was happy, everything was going well. He had his family next to him. He built more like a private villa up there just for him and his people, right? There's only one way to access this mountain and one way out of it. So in the 90s, it was a gravel road. It took people almost 2 hours to get there, right? So you could see people coming up there with enough time to do something about it, right? So it was impossible for someone to even try to break in there and do something to Pablo. I mean, Pablo, you can see it in his face. He was happy there. He had soccer players from the national team go up there and have games for him. Maradona visited Pablo up there. Like, he had whatever he wanted. You know, privileges you're not supposed to have in the prison, like casino, their own little private, everything they wanted, right? Parties for the hitman, and most importantly, he wasn't being persecuted, and his family was safe with him right there, right? That was the most important for him. So everything was going well. He left the business in charge of 4 of the biggest drug dealers at the time, right? They were drug dealers like at the same level as Pablo, but these guys were more low-key type of guys, more businessmen, right? Those guys were the Moncada brothers and the Galeanos. So these guys took over the business for Pablo. They were extremely loyal to him. They owned the largest military wing from the cartel, so they had a lot of power, right? Pablo was happy they took over because these guys knew how to launder the money really well. They owned construction, brick companies here in the city, so...
Today?
No,
back then.
The what?
Today, until today?
No, those guys, so I'm explaining to you what happened to those guys. Their families are still active, but they got a different name now. So the Galeanos basically took over. Everything was running well. These guys agreed to give Pablo 50% of the profit, which to other cartel members, it was something like crazy that they had agreed to that. But they said, you know, this guy did a lot for our business, so we gotta show him loyalty and respect. So they didn't care, right? Pablo started to realize that these guys were taking over the power now. Like, he was locked up, he didn't have any power, and he had a big ego. He always wanted to be number one, right? So once he noticed this, he decided to, you know, kind of go against these guys. So he sent one of his hitmans who stayed outside for him, and he discovered that Fernando Galeano had a money stash with over $73 million just sitting there, right? But this money was money that they put away for many years. They just wanted to keep it safe because a lot of people were going to prison. It was uncertain times for the cartel, right? So they just wanted to play it safe, and it takes a long time to launder 73 million anyways, right? So it's not like you can do it from one day to another, right? It takes time. Basically, Pablo and his hitman decided to take this money, right? So the hitman stole this money, and he told Pablo, look, these guys are basically not paying you a tax on this money, right? But Pablo knew that was the money they had put away, that they saved up. It had nothing to do with being taxed. They were loyal to Pablo, but he started to use this as an excuse to basically get him out the way and accuse him of stealing, right? So these guys got really mad when they found out it was El Chopo, the one who took the money, because he said he knew damn well that was our money, and why would he do that to us? So I guess they talked to the guy, they called Pablo, and they said, you know, I'm gonna give you guys the money back. Just come up to the prison and talk to me, right? We'll figure this out. They went up to the prison to talk to Pablo, and right there they got into an altercation because Pablo wanted to tax this money, right? He said, I'm gonna give you back, I'm gonna tax 30% of this money, of the 73 million, because I was the one who spent all of the money fighting the government to create the peace that now you're taking advantage of, right? So basically, that got those guys like really mad. They got into an altercation, and even though they agreed at the end to, you know, not get into any problems with him and just give him the 30% he wanted, because there was plenty of money for all of them, right? They said, well, you gotta be greedy, like, whatever, if it's about money, we got it. But then Pablo had already decided to kill him, because what he really wanted was to get back in his power, right? So he ended up killing these guys, and one of his bodyguards, one of the Moncada and Galeano's bodyguards, who became a paramilitary, he basically was the one who told the government what was going on in the prison. They found out that Pablo was killing people up there, so they decided to relocate him, right? They wanted to relocate him to a real prison, but then Pablo started thinking they were gonna kill him or they were gonna extradite him. And that for him was like, he'd rather die than to get extradited. So that's when he escapes to prison, right? Once he escapes to prison, this guy, Don Berna, basically a paramilitary, got together with ex-members from the Medellin cartel, got together with, funded by the Cali cartel, and approved by the Colombian government and the DA under the table. They created Los Pepes. So Los Pepes was a group of people who basically knew how he operated. They knew his hideouts, and it just made it so much easier for them to get to Pablo, right? So basically, everybody in the city, enemies and non-enemies, who, you know, got mad at Pablo because he killed his best people, or even the people that used to work for him, said, you know, he's a selfish person. He killed the most loyal people he had. He's gonna end up killing anybody. He doesn't care about nobody but himself, right? So
you hear that, and that's how Pablo Escobar died. You see it, so go visiting gravesite and I'll show no one going, isn't it? Just stay tuned. Yeah, so we at the cemetery where they say Pablo got buried and so forth, so go say hi to Pablo a little bit, you know.
Luis Fernando Escobar, Pablo's youngest brother, he dies in a car accident December 25th. The family gave him a car as a Christmas gift, graduation gift and stuff, right? gave it to him late at night on December 24th. These guys were drinking and partying on his way back into the city. There was a checkpoint. They try to pull him over. He gets scared because, of course, he's Pablo's brother. He was still hungover. So he tried to wave the checkpoint. He lost control of the vehicle and he fell off a cliff and killed himself. Pablo thinks the police was chasing my brother, and that's when he started to also pay to kill police officers. Teresa Vergara, that's Pablo's nanny, the one who took care of him as a baby. Hermilda, Pablo's mom. So Hermilda was a school teacher. She came to Medellin to work as a school teacher, and she didn't really know anybody here, right? So she met this lady outside of the school where she was working at, became good friends with her, and that's why she became the nanny. That's the one who took care of Pablo's brothers and sisters. Inez Ophelia, that's Pablo's favorite auntie. She died of 97 when natural cause, basically, the house where Pablo was hiding, they say was her property. Gloria Angelica was one of the granddaughters. She died from cancer in 2018. Alvaro de Jesus Abuelo, that's El Limon. So this guy died the same day with Pablo, December 2nd. He died like maybe 5 minutes before Pablo. So this guy in the series and stuff, Pablo, you're gonna see him as a hitman, but he never was. He was like someone who grew up with him and he wanted to be part of the organization, but he didn't want to be involved in any of the bad stuff, right? So he told Pablo, I have a lot to thank you for, but I don't want to do any of the bad shit. So Pablo only used them so he can drive his family around, his wife, kids, his mom, dad, right? So he never even held a gun in his life. Only the day that Pablo gets killed. Why? Because he went to go shoot the cops and give Pablo some time to run away. Juan Manuel Escobar, that's Pablo's uncle. This guy died in 98, and Abel de Jesus Escobar, Pablo's dad, died from a heart attack in 2001. This guy was like in denial about who his kids were. He was a country man. He stayed all his time in his ranch, never really took advantage of his money until the end when he started to see Pablo on the news as the most wanted person. He realized that who they were, but he never really took any advantage of the money. If you guys want any pictures, stand behind, I'll take it for you, or just take pictures of the grave.
Alright, so this is basically Pablo Escobar and close friends and family members, you know. So Pablo mother, Pablo father, uncle, and 3 of his bodyguards. You know, so one family, Pablo Escobar family.
People get cremated and put in one of those urns because it's more expensive to get buried than that. Consume the body and get cremated anyways.
Pablo, we love you, we nigga. Remember me tell you. Real fucking killers.
They knew they were gonna get killed, but he said, I'm
so
gonna be loyal
he's
till the
a
end.
good friend of Pablo.
Yep.
Close friend of Pablo.
Yeah. So basically,
Is
Pablo,
that true, man?
That's the true man. So basically, look, Pablo didn't really pay these guys to be crazy hitters or to kill people. He paid them for their loyalty, basically. You can find it on History Channel too. So that's the police guy that one of the generals that persecuted Pablo, also killed by them. That's Pablo's son. So they're saying that 2 of the most loyal people that took care of Pablo. He's not in any of the series because he didn't agree to money arrangement. So all these houses from back here, there's about 800 of them. They were all built by Pablo. Not one person paid $1 for them. These people lived on top of the dumpster area downtown. They used to look for food in the trash, and he decided to build them a decent home for them to move in here. So that's why people here still actually think he's a good person. They glorify him because they only know the good side of him, basically, right?
All 800 of them.
Some of the main cartel members, Pablo, Gustavo, his cousin, Gonzalo, the Ochoa brothers, these guys were in the business before Pablo was. Roberto was actually still alive, Pablo's oldest brother. Otto, El Arete, the one that the guy showed you at the cemetery, he's still alive as well. El Negro Bajon, Don Lara, Cachochino. That's Terremoto, one of really expensive horses that was owned by Pablo's brother. This horse was kidnapped by the Cali cartel and they castrated it so they wouldn't breed it. So it was a big fight over this horse right here.
Terremoto.
They say they kept a few samples and they still got some horses with that type of
So this are like Colombia, Pablo Escobar kind of museum, you know. Yeah, showcase some of Pablo Escobar things and don't know, we have some gifters, persons, you know, selling craft market gifts and so forth. So time we move again, we're gonna show up, but with the years so far a little bit, you know. They said these people here today still look at Pablo as a hero because a 800 house a year, son. Pablo built a 800 house for these persons, that's it. So a significant view the same way. So everybody here so love Pablo.
So that's why he used to claim he was like a Robin Hood, right? Given to the poor people. So he was really active with politics and stuff, like mainly during the 80s. After he kills this guy, he went back into his clandestine world pretty much. Hide out again. This guy, Pablo's letter, he actually came out of prison last year. This guy was one of Pablo's partners. He was the first one to get extradited. Pablo turned him into the police because he was giving them a lot of problems. So he decided to turn him in to take the pressure away from the other people, and then they still extradited the guy. So that's when he found out, like, oh, it's for real. They're gonna come and get me. Yeah. There was no extradition law, and America came and still picked him up. So that's when he found out it was real. Like, oh shit. Who is this? That's La Kika. So La Kika used to be one of Pablo's hitmans. He went away to New York, and he got arrested over there. And they accused this guy of the airplane bombing. Basically, that's the prison. That's the guy supposed to be the hitman who killed the guy running for president. They don't know who he is, but look, he's right there with all his money. Famous picture about the guy that we saw at the cemetery. This is him right here. That's Gustavo himself. El Arete, La Yuca, and Pablo.
So this is the guy we saw today.
These Botero's paintings of Pablo on top of the rooftop. We're gonna go to this next, and then from there we'll go to cable car and Green 13. These are two DA agents supposedly killed him, but we already know the truth.
It was a feel relief when they killed him.
Yeah, so that was like
Touch all this one.
Look, so this is Pinina. Remember the guy we saw? Gave the little chain piece? This is the guy that gave it to the guy that we saw. So this was the real right-hand man when it came down to the hitman. And these were some of the main hitters. This picture that I showed you. Minister of Justice. Basically only policemen and military people live around here. That's why it was the last spot for them to look for. So look, this is the house. This is the rooftop. Pablo basically jumped out of this window up here, covered with the bricks, and landed on the rooftop. When he couldn't go anywhere, he basically, there's three theories about his death, right? One says the Pepes killed him and then called the cops so they can get the credit for it. Make it seem like they're the heroes. Other people say it was a sniper from the United States, but if they studied the exit wound on his head, and it would have caused way more damage. So the guy that you've seen on the picture, picking his head up like that, the Colombian cop, he was the one who supposedly shot him 3 times. One in the back of the leg,
So basically, they say this side also probably the hideout when he get killed.
The gun that the guy was holding, right? So they say when Pablo felt surrounded with nowhere to go, he basically shot himself in the back of the head. That's what he used to tell his son too. If you ever have to kill yourself, never point the gun to your mouth, point it to the back of your head, because it's gonna be like instantly you're gonna die, right? So, you know, he was a pride man. He wasn't gonna let these people kill him, let alone get him extradited. So he decided to kill himself, because like Carieton said on the t-shirt, I'd rather have a grave here than a prison
in Colombia
in the
than a
States.
prison in the
So
United
look,
States.
even until the end, he got away with it. And so we can get off here. I'll take a picture of you guys, and then we'll go to the cable car and Terminal 13 now.
No, it's okay.
We're good?
Yeah,
All right,
it's
so
good.
just make sure y'all take a picture.
There's a game going on tonight. A game, soccer match, football match. That's the stadium right here. What's over there? That's